held in the council chamber in Strabane at Tuesday, 16th of April, 4 p.m. So if I take the roll call, Alderman Cook, Alderman Guy.
Here, Stephen.
Alderman Middleton.
Apologies.
Councillor Clark. Councillor Cusack.
Here.
Councillor Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Fleming.
And Shaw.
Councillor Gallagher.
Shaw.
Councillor Hart.
Shaw.
Councillor Hutton.
And Shaw.
Councillor McDade.
Here.
Councillor McHugh.
Shaw.
Councillor Farrell. Councillor O'Neillis.
Shaw.
Thank you, members.
Stephen, sorry, it's Alderman Cook. I actually showed up to the Guildhall today. Didn't realise it was in Strabane. So.
No problem. Thank you, Alderman Cook.
Thank you, Alderman Cook. You won't be able to ask any questions, unfortunately. You'll just be able to listen.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Okay, I'll read the broadcasting statement. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. If you're seated in the public seating media areas, it's possible that the recording cameras will capture your image, and it will result in the possibility that your image will become part of the broadcast. By entering the council chamber and using the press or public seating area, you're consenting to being filmed and consenting to the use and storage of those images for webcasting or training purposes, and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. A copy of the council privacy notice can be found on the council website. So going to item 4 on the agenda. Just before, I would just like to welcome everybody here today. A good turnout I see to Strabane, which is always great. So item 4, declarations of members' interests. If you can let me know now if you've any interests or through the meeting. Go ahead. Councillor News.
Yep, Board of Visit Derry, MPs Plus Board, and an employee of St Colum's Park House.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Agenda item 5 and possibly 8. Work in the Siege Museum as a paid part-time assistant. And Peace item 10, Peace Plus Board member.
Thank you, Alderman Guy. Anyone else?
Likewise, Peace Plus, item 10, I'm a member of the Peace Plus.
And I am also a member of the Peace Plus as well. So we'll go to item 5 on the agenda, which is deputation to receive Mr. Audrin Dunn, Chief Executive Officer, and Ms. Michelle Simpson, Chair of Visit Derry, to provide an update in relation to the Visit Derry. Thanks and welcome to the chamber today. We usually have allowed 10 minutes for the presentation and then 10 minutes for questions and answers. So over to yourselves there now. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and elected representatives and Derry City Strabane District Council officers. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to update you on the activity of Visit Derry over the last year. So 2023 has really been the year for recovery as we welcome back the international travel after the devastating impact of COVID on our sector. This time last year, we were uncertain as to what 2023 would bring, but recovery has been relatively good and much stronger than we initially expected, with global tourism back at 88%. European destinations are 94% of the 2019 data, and we hope by the end of 2024 we'll have fully recovered to 2019 levels. International travel has been rebounded more quickly than anticipated, and this has been supported by air and sea capacity returning at a faster rate than expected, and this bodes well for 2024. Our domestic market still offers great potential for growth, and this will support the seasonality changes for the sector going forward. I'd like to congratulate all those festival and events organisers who deliver on a year-to-year, and a special mention to Council and their delivery partners on another fabulous Derry Halloween. While Ireland might be the home of Halloween, Derry is definitely the capital. Whilst we are a resilient industry, we have put the pandemic behind us. However, we are now facing mounting new challenges, including the cost of living crisis, inflation, the rising cost of doing business, public sector funding cuts, energy costs, labour shortages, the recruitment, retention and training of staff, and the geopolitical global tensions and conflicts of all this will continue to impact on our tourism economy. The introduction of ETA will be a bit of an unknown and another hurdle in selling Northern Ireland internationally. As a not-for-profit, private sector partnership, this challenges will impact on our capacity to deliver for the city and region. Nonetheless, the extensive work of Visit Derry and our local tourism industry has never been more critical during what seems to be another unprecedented period for the global and local tourism economy. Only by continued collaboration and partnership can we deliver and grow and collectively rebalance the local tourism economy. I'm now going to hand you over to Odrin Dunn, our Chief Executive, to update you on the extensive marketing and campaign activity undertaken by the team at Visit Derry over the last year.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for the opportunity to be here today. And it's great to give you some insights into the work of Visit Derry over the last year and tell you a little bit about the company for those. I know there's some new committee members here who may be not aware of the work of Visit Derry. So Visit Derry is a not-for-profit public-private partnership established in 1996 as a model to drive tourism growth. On the basis that it's not just the public sector that invests in tourism, it's also the private sector, and the returns of investment go to both public sector and the private sector. So we lead on destination marketing, promoting the destination, the city, the district, the Northwest region, and international markets and in the national markets. We also run the Gateway Visitor Centre at Waterloo Place in the city centre and collaborate closely with the Alley Theatre on its Visitor Information Centre. We also are a membership model, so we have over 215 businesses currently who are members of the organisation. And we currently employ up to 20 staff, including full-time, part-time and casual roles within the company. So trying to understand the tourism ecosystem, it's a very, as you know yourselves, cross-departmental industry, and so many different departments are involved in the delivery of tourism. At the top level for us, Tourism Ireland deliver an international marketing piece. So they're promoting the island of Ireland to potential consumers and to get tourists to the island. Our challenge is how do we get them to the northwest corner of the island. So we work collaboratively with Tourism Ireland, trying to influence business to this part of the island. Tourism Northern Ireland then, on the other hand, work within the island context, promoting Northern Ireland within NI domestically and the Republic of Ireland markets. So the DMO model is led by Visit Belfast and Visit Derry with support from the local councils. And we work closely, obviously, with the officers and council around product development. It's working to develop product that will meet the consumer's demand and emerging trends. So to try to capture some of this activity, I could do it in 100 PowerPoint slides, but it wouldn't really give it justice. So we put it together in a few minutes, and hopefully that'll give you a snapshot of some of the work and activity that we get up to deliver on behalf of the city and district. Just checking the sound here. Yeah, look at the visuals. Do you want to work away on that and have a look and maybe play it at the end? If I continue with the presentation, if you get it working, that'd be useful rather than. Okay, so we'll circulate the if members are happy to do that, we can circulate the video. Great, thanks for doing that. Yeah, hopefully that gives you a snapshot. It was only 4 minutes. We tried to keep it as short as possible and give you a bit of an overview of the type of work that we are involved in. Just continue the presentation then. We're looking at tourism and how we've returned to almost pre-COVID levels. I think tourism globally is back at 88% and Europe has driven the growth. It's back about 96%. So like locally, we're here sitting around about that percentage. We're hoping by the end of this year, we'll be back at pre-COVID levels with all things being equal. Next slide, we're working towards obviously our 2025 strategy, which is a target of 100 million, attracting over almost 1 million bed nights, 100 million visitors spend, and 308,000 overnight visitors. So it's critical for us to continue this marketing investment to drive that strategy and to deliver on those targets, because ultimately within that we're looking at almost 6,000 jobs across the district that are supported by the tourism industry. Just to give you an idea of how we're performing, one of the best benchmarkers is in terms of hotel occupancy, and that's been driven by strong demand over the last year, which has seen our occupancy return to pre-pandemic levels. We've grown occupancy across the district by about 20% over the last couple of years, and that's been driven obviously by the investment in Everington, but also by Airbnb investment over the city and district. So there's almost 3,600 bed spaces available every night across the district to be selling. So we have a challenge as well over seasonality. You know, there's peaks and troughs in that. So working from April to October is relatively good occupancy. The challenge then is off season, and that's some of the challenge for the region, but also seasonality and how we can fill those gaps. We can do that through business events, conference events, scheduling events off season. That will attract different markets to the city and district. Just in terms of the demographic then, where people are coming from in terms of overnights, that's driven by 50% domestic, NIRY, and the other 50% are non-domestic. Big dependency on North America and GB coming in, and that's driven by strong group tour operator business, but also more and more group and individual travellers travelling into the destination, and we continue to see that grow over the coming year. In terms of the visitor profile then of the VIC, it's broken down to about 55%, so it's more international than we would see in terms of the overnights. We've covered some of the activity already for you. You know, we go to market with Tourism Ireland. Who's pushing the Northwest? You know, we can't depend on Tourism Ireland to do that. They're working to get people to the island, but every destination on the island is competing, whether that's Galway, Killarney, Belfast, and we want to ensure that our presence is felt in as many markets as possible. There's 23 market offices. We're only working on the ones that will actually give us a return on investment, the closer to home ones, and particularly North America, where we can see that there's potential growth to come in from. So a lot of our continued growth will be around investing, obviously, new product coming in from the likes of yourselves, council, and also from the private sector. And we've seen that over the last couple of years, the likes of Brook Hall Estate, the Everington Hotel, and obviously the new investment of the DNA Museum for 2026. So that presence in market to actually start selling that and having a good base of visitors coming into that before it opens is critical, and to ensure the continued success of the attractions before they open. And it's not just about obviously the city, there's the wider district and the opportunities that it presents through new products and developments. And we've seen obviously the Appalachian Trail, the Spear and Sculpture Trail gives great opportunity for people to explore wider the Northwest region, but also to explore driving trails, walking trails, and that's, you know, a changing consumer demand as well as more people are enjoying the great outdoors. We've mentioned about Dairy Girls and the opportunity that council, it's been fantastic that you took up the opportunity to provide the consumer demand that people wanted more than just a mural in the city. It's fantastic the Tower Museum have put in an exhibition there. There's people traveling from all over the world to come and see that. And getting them here is one part of the challenge. that once we have them here, then the opportunity for all the products, them to go and experience more of what the city has to offer. And that's been a great hook. And obviously getting Tourism Ireland to buy into that with the campaigns has been fantastic. And we've seen some of the ads there that they've used, screen tourism. And for us, that's been brilliant because it's put in position in the Northwest as a place that tourists would potentially want to come and visit whenever they're considering Ireland and the destination. We've mentioned Halloween. Obviously, strategically, Tourism Ireland are positioning Ireland as the home of Halloween. So we're really on the coattails of that and trying to maximise the exposure for this region as the capital of Halloween. You know, it's an embryonic event that's growing here and it is now got international appeal. So we want to continue that investment and to ensure that we don't lose that, because we know the immersive experience that's driven by what people get when they come to the city and district is fantastic. And obviously this year we've got the Foyle Maritime Festival upcoming, which hopefully will be another opportunity for us to drive international business. We talked about seasonality. Business tourism is a critical piece of that infrastructure and attracting delegates to the city for conferences, whether national or international. We just last week hosted for the first time in 90 years the INTO conference, 1,000 delegates for the first time coming into the city and district, and that was a great success. And we're hoping now we're on the calendar to secure that every few years to the city. And only working through our ambassador program have we been able to leverage that, and that's critical to continue that work because there's so much more potential to support the seasonality of the tourism sector with conferences. Golf tourism, as you know, the Open is being hosted in Portrush next year, so making plans to ensure we maximise that and position the city and district as a great base. You know, if we can get the people here to want to go and do the links courses, then we can maximise that with the parkland courses of Foyle, City Derry, Strabane, that people will stay longer and have the opportunity to play a choice of courses. So that'll be a key focus over the next year. Just to conclude, we've given you an idea of the budget that we're working off over the last year. Obviously, we've had the 15% reduction following the rates process last year. Effectively, that was almost £70,000 off our budget. Prior to COVID, we were a 51% council support. We're now down to 38% council. So we're under pressure to drive commercial revenue. And we do that. We've increased our membership fees. We're working to increase advertising and any opportunity to drive commercial growth. We're working on that. And obviously then where we can make savings, cost engineering, we're working through that as well. All been said and done, there's some great opportunities over the next few years. We've highlighted some of them there. I think obviously your work in City Deal is going to be fantastic for the whole city and district, and I think the marketing behind that has to be of an international scale as well for us to deliver on the ambitions. The Shared Island Initiative obviously will be another opportunity to drive tourism growth. There are challenges, undoubtedly. ETA is probably one of those. We've mentioned some of the others, cost of living. But ultimately, we think the future is bright and there's great opportunities to drive economic growth, create more jobs in the tourism sector, and will sustain local communities. The big opportunity, I suppose, is the new draft tourism strategy, where hopefully we can feed in and we can deliver upon regional balance. You know, we want to tackle the regional inequalities, and I think a new tourism strategy will help us do that. So that gives us a short snapshot of some of the work of Visit Derry. I'd just like to thank council officers for their support over the last year. And ultimately, it's a collaboration both with ourselves, with council and with the private sector for us to drive growth and sustain jobs in the local tourism economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Odrin, for the update. And I'm sure you'll agree the team at Visit Derry have done a great job in such challenging circumstances over the past year to really drive the message home that it's some fantastic tourist destination and one that continues to go from strength to strength with exciting new and planned developments for the years ahead. We wish council well with the ambitious plans that were recently announced through City Deal, All of this gives us optimism that the industry has so much more growth potential, and we hope our ambitions for the destination do benefit all our citizens by the local tourism industry supporting local communities by sustaining and creating new jobs in the tourism sector. We are encouraged by the recent remarks from the Department of Economy Minister, Conor Murphy, that there will be a focus on rebalancing the local economy, and note that tourism is one of the 5 key economic strands identified to support the Northwest region, and we hope those are more than aspirational and deliver for the Council and District. It's only by working in partnership, local government, central government, and with the private sector that we can continue to grow the destination to benefit local businesses and support almost 6,000 jobs in our local tourism economy. I should like to say a special thanks to Derry City and Strabane District Council officers, to Stephen Gillespie, to Aideen McCarter, and to Jennifer O'Donnell, and our elected officers, John Boyle, Grace McNeilis, and Janice Montgomery, for their support over the last year, and also our members who continue to deliver such high quality products and tourist service day and daily. Thank you for providing us with this opportunity to update you on the work of the company and the annual service level agreement. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Michelle and Audrey, for a very slick and comprehensive presentation. A few gremlins with the video, but that's to be expected sometimes. So I'll open it up to the floor now. Councillor O'Neill.
Good morning. Yeah, well done to the marketing team for that video, and well done for the presentation. Obviously, as a member of the board, I'd like to congratulate Visit Derry on their gradual recovery in the sector, something which is reflective of the improving product offer in the city. Your growth in attracting new members is to be applauded, and the support and the work that you do was very clear at the AGM when I was speaking to some of the members, especially within the hospitality sector, and they were saying how the support and the advertising that you do is vital to their business. The commercial revenue and how you accumulate your income is brilliant as well, you know, with your increase in the membership and attracting new members this year as well. So just at this point, today, I would just like to congratulate you for all the work you do.
Thank you, Grace.
Thanks, Councillor O'Neill. Anybody else? Councillor McDade.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks to Audrey and Michelle for coming in. It was a brilliant presentation. Just as Grace has said, like, congratulations. I mean, I don't think anybody knows how much cross-cutting work you're doing, and just with your final marks there, Michelle, about the, you know, the importance of the tourism strategy and the tourism strand for the economy and for, you know, regional imbalance. I think it's really important, and I think that kind of what struck me there was not just the tourism that we think about, people coming and going on tours and going around the walls and going to museums, but all that other kind of the business side of it and making sure that that balances out on the off-peak service. I thought it was really interesting. But thank you and congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Councillor McDade. Anybody else want to come in? Councillor Farron.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Michelle and Odrin, for coming today. Odrin, you had mentioned about the opportunities within the draft tourism strategy, and Michelle, you had said about, you know, the focus on regional balance, and I know that, you know, our council contributes massively to the running costs of Visit Derry, but also know that Tourism NI contribute as well. I think our view would be that one way that we could tackle regional balance would be a bigger contribution from Tourism NI. Have there been any discussions with Tourism NI? And I'm mindful of budget pressures. We don't have a budget, but we're expecting one in the next couple of weeks. Is there any indication from that funder about budget certainty for the coming year? Thanks.
Yeah, well, we've been told it's a flatline budget for the coming year, which is obviously disappointing. The tourism strategy, as you know, was in draft form. We're not too sure if that's going to be released, or will there be a reworking of that over the coming period. But yes, all the mood is that, you know, we're looking to support regional balance in the delivery of services, and the departments we've invested in IFT and I with Tourism Ireland. So yes, the challenge will be put back to them around delivering KPIs for the regions, that, you know, there are performance indicators that will drive regional growth. So I suppose we moved on to a different level. Now we're talking about regional balance, which we hadn't ever been before, which is interesting, but I suppose it's how we move those aspirations into actual investment and see additional investment coming in to not just tourism, but the wider Northwest economy.
Thanks, Alderman. Thanks, Councillor Byrne. You okay with that? Alderman Hussey.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chair. I'm not a member of committee. And thanks for the presentation. With regard to the partnership element of Visit Derry, I note what is 200, north of 200 businesses involved. How many of those businesses would be south of new buildings?
Suppose the wider membership incorporates both as far as obviously Castlederg in the local district, but also wider into Donegal, right up to the North Coast, Port Rush, right over to Slave League, Donegal Town. So it's not just specifically local as in the district. It's much broader than that.
So if we can go back to, I'm aware of the wider reach. And I mean, you've referred to that in the presentation, but within the district council area, have you any idea, are they single figures, double figures of those businesses south? In other words, moving into the former Strabane District Council, the legacy council, shall we say?
Single figures, there'll be a small amount of businesses from that particular district.
And a final point then on that. Does that tell Visit Derry something that there's an element missing within the remit, which is supposed to cover the city and the entire district?
Yeah, obviously we would love to have far more private sector investment from members. Obviously it's obligatory, people decide if that investment is worth, to get additional exposure. We'd love to have more members from around Strabane and Castlederg, but that's all delivered by product. We need to be building additional product. We'd like to see more investment coming into obviously Strabane and Castlederg, that more product is developed there, and then they would see the benefit of joining and getting that market exposure.
Thanks again for the presentation. Thanks for your answers. And I hope our council officers actually heard that as well.
Thanks, Alderman Hussey. Alderman Guy.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Alderman and Michelle, for the presentation. The membership, the business membership, I know that there's a deficit there from last year with the cut that we imposed through the rates as well. But and I notice what I'm hearing is there's an increase to the membership this year of £30, if I think I'm correct. What sort of feedback have you been getting from members on that increase with the increased rates as well? And is there a chance that some members are not going to take up the payments this year? I have been hearing things on the grapevine myself.
I suppose that was a board and a membership decision. Yeah, we were focused on how do we generate more revenue. We had the deficit, so we had to look at all avenues where we would have to increase costs. One of them was the membership, and the board had agreed. We'd looked at 5%, 10%, 15% to drive additional commercial private sector revenue. The challenge is, will we lose some members because of the increased fee? It's a bit early for us to say. It's only gone out from the 1st of April. But we're hopeful whatever we lose, we will gain in new members. But that's the model. I suppose that's the model that we've been invested in over the last 30 years. Will you go with a bid model? Will you go with pure council that does tourism? That's the question. But we believe that the private public sector partnership is the model. You want the private sector investing in to the marketing and promotion of the place. We do a lot of work. We attract the INTO conference. We don't actually make anything out of that. That goes back into the city and district. 1,000 delegates staying for 3 nights, 4 nights. They're spending money here. That's all to the benefit of the local population, the local businesses, but we don't get any benefit out of that. So it's tangibly how you manage that as a not-for-profit and how we can be commercial at the same time.
Thanks for that there. And just one more thing as well. On the visitor passes, I know that sure how they entirely work, like, you know, but is it true that, like, say, Power Museum of Free Derry, if someone doesn't end up going to Museum of Free Derry, then that money's not sent on to Museum of Free Derry, that it's Visit Derry actually hold on to that money? It's only if the person, the tourist, actually visits the premises that they basically are then that it actually goes to that tourist museum or wherever. Or...
Yeah, so the visitor pass is an international pass, and it's modeled on other destinations like Edinburgh, York. So the idea is that a tourist can buy a pass, a 1-day pass or 2-day pass, and they have access to a range of attractions or tours or experiences. And for that package, the £25, they can decide they want to do one, they can decide to do 10 attractions or tours. Or it can be packaged in with a hotel, for example. You pay £200 for your overnight accommodation, plus you get the visitor pass. And whether you do the pass or not, the money that's generated through the pass goes back in to promote the pass. So there's no, whether the tourist wants to do the individual attractions is basically down to the choice of the consumer. We'd like to think that they would do a selection of tours, but we can't guarantee that. And we wouldn't want them doing the 10 tours because it would cost money then if they did them all.
No, thank you for that. Thank you. Just one more question as well. And I noticed this myself when I was on, and a few people have mentioned it to me. You've nothing with Londonderry on for fridge magnets or anything in that shop. It's all Derry or Derry girls. And we have had a few people come into the museum and asked us, I can't get in. I was on there and I couldn't get in.
Well, we must have been out of stock of them, but there's kids' t-shirts, there's a whole range of Londonderry.
Have you any Londonderry girls? Are you happy enough, Alderman? Okay.
Happy enough for that. Thank you, Alderman.
Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in, and thanks to Michelle and Audrey for coming in today and sharing the work of Visit Derry. And I will say that I am conscious that we're sitting here talking about how great Derry is to visit, but the meeting's happening in Strabane today, and I see a few eyebrows going up. So, and we have to be conscious about that as well. And look, I think we can all agree, or at least most of us, that Derry is a brilliant place, and that people should visit here, and it's good to see that more people are coming. And I agree with previous speakers. Look, I think that we've been having a big discussion about regional imbalances, and I think that that's true when it comes to the funding of our tourism sector here as well. And we have had speeches now in Stormont where we've been told that the regional balances will be addressed, but we have to see that action now. You'll be the first to see it, or among the first, because that'll come in the form of extra funding. I think that obviously the council contributes, but I think that we need Stormont to step up now and properly invest here. And I think that that's one part of it. And I know that you've been juggling with the budget cut that council unfortunately put through, which probably added to your strains as well, because you've been dealing with a situation where there's been more opportunities to encourage people to come here, but that you actually need investment to make that happen. The second one is, look, we have a growing tourism sector, and I think that has to can be part of a regeneration of the economy for Derry and the district and the Northwest. But I also think it's important that the tourism sector pays its workers properly. And I know from talking to some workers in the sector that they don't feel they're as yet properly paid for the work they do. So I think that that's something that we want to see grow hand in hand with a growing tourism sector. We want to make sure that the workers that are in it are treated as well as the visitors through the city. And that's not necessarily in your gift, but when we're talking about our overall strategy and hopes for the tourism sector, I think it's important to acknowledge the great work that's done by workers that are in those businesses right across the district. So again, thanks for coming in today.
Thanks, Councillor Hargan, and good to see you making your way up to Strabane. As you know, we alternate our meetings between Strabane and Derry. There's important decisions made in Derry about Strabane and vice versa, so I don't think it really makes a difference where the decision is made. It's made by the council members, so thank you for coming up. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. I just have one, just to make observations, looking at the struggle of coming out of COVID and trying to up the numbers. How much have you identified the hindrance around the electronic tagging? You know, that is it like a battle for yourselves to try and overcome that? And is it becoming such a constraint that people are not coming at all?
So I suppose we haven't seen how that's going to all evolve. It's only Qatar, 3 of the Middle East countries at the minute where they actually have to have the ETA. We're probably going to see that over the next year and a half. But because it's part of the UK immigration framework, the challenge is around how does that sit within Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, or the cross-border context, because Home Office see it as a complete security risk. But for us, we're working through NITA and the Tourism Alliance to try and get an exemption for people with under 7 days, that if you're a tourist, you're in Dublin, you come across, that if an exemption was put in place, that would allow you a sort of bit of free movement for those tourists that want to do that. So it's going to be a big challenge, Tourism Ireland, in messaging, communication and marketing into the markets to let tourists know that they'll need to spend £10 per person to come in to Northern Ireland as part of their visa entry. The challenge is a lot of the business international comes via Dublin. So a lot of people may not be aware of the fact that if from 2025 you're coming from America, you have to have your visa, your ETA. There could be people that decide to stop at the border and say, no, I don't have an ETA, I'm not going to apply for it, I'll turn back. So it is a huge concern as a border city and district. You know, we've had challenging enough business trying to get people to come to this part of the country. So ETA is just another hindrance to ensure the seamless travel of consumers. So I think the departments, Stormont, are still in discussions with the Home Office over that.
Thanks. Are you okay with that, Councillor Gallagher? Anyone else want to come in? So I think that's the questions and answers done. Thanks again, Michelle and Audrey, for your time today, and enjoyed the presentation. So thank you.
Thanks very much.
Chair. Thanks, sir.
Okay, we'll move on to item 6, Chairperson's business. I have 2 items. One is the Waterside Theatre Company centre closure, and the other one is the Ballyanard block plan. So I'll discuss the Waterside Theatre Company. I just want to say a few words first before I bring in Councillor and Alderman. So I'm sure it came as a shock to many the announcement of the pending closure of the Waterside Theatre and Arts Centre, a much loved and used cultural venue in the city. I received a letter this morning from Ian Barr, Chief Executive Officer of the Waterside Theatre Company, in relation to their failure to secure funding from the Arts Council. As a result, they have announced that the Waterside Theatre and Arts Centre will close at the end of June 2024. So I'm just going to read an extract from their letter I received. So they said, our initial thought on hearing the news was to wind up the company at the end of June. However, on reflection, we believe our strengths as an organisation lie in the community arts programmes we deliver that benefit those most in need in our society. including young people from different cultural backgrounds, people of all ages with disabilities, and older people living in residential care. We do not necessarily need a venue to continue to deliver these programs beyond June. They can be delivered off-site in community and outreach settings. So the Waterside Theatre Company has asked Derry City and Strabane District Council to assist in their engagement with Arts Council NI and the Department for Communities to seek the necessary resources to enable them to transition into this new phase. Can I ask council officers if they can facilitate a discussion with Arts Council NI and Department for Communities to explore all avenues in order to assist the Waterside Theatre Company in this transition? So I'll go to Councillor Farrell, who wants to speak on it, and then Alderman Guy. So go ahead, Councillor Farrell.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And the proposal has come from Ian Barr. If that needs a proposer or a seconder, the SLP is happy to support that, because the last thing we want to see is the Waterside Theatre and the services that it provides disappear completely. I think when everybody heard the news yesterday that Waterside institution, the Waterside Theatre, had lost every single penny of its Arts Council funding, £124,000. I think they were deeply, deeply disappointed. The fact that that organisation is closing its doors, it's a symptom of the lack of funding within the Arts Council, the lack of funding throughout the North for the arts. And I am conscious that next month we've got members from DFC, we've got members from the Arts Council coming to this council area to talk about regional balance. And this isn't a good start. You know, so an organisation that is established in this city and district, does sterling work in this city and district, that was reliant on funding and deserved that funding for years and years and years, just gets it all taken away and so much removed that it can't operate. So we make no apologies for saying that the Arts Council has a Belfast-centric approach. It's got a Belfast-centric agenda and it's got a Belfast-centric focus. And, you know, I'm open to be convinced otherwise. But the proof of the pudding, the reality is that the allocation of funding across the North favours Belfast massively. In 2022-23, 72% of Arts Council funding for organisations across the North were the organisations based in Belfast. There was £20 million and 14 million of it went to Belfast. So this new executive, they're talking about regional balance. They're talking about doing things in a fairer manner and more inclusive for people here in the Northwest. This is where they need to start. So we're looking forward to seeing the Arts Council next month. We're looking forward to seeing DFC next month, and we're happy to support that proposal. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Farrell. Alderman Guy.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me in. And yourself and Councillor Farrell have said most of it, but we've all attended events within the Waterside Theatre, and for them to lose out on 125k of funding is really disgraceful. Like, whenever the work and effort that they've put on over the years. I've spoke with Ian Barr this morning, and he informed me that he had wrote the council as well as the community arts that they do themselves, and they do it that well as well. And I know that staff and all are willing to follow that route and basically continue with their work. And obviously, you know, multicultural programs, schools and dementia units, but they also need funding to continue with that in the future. And as Councillor Farrell recently says there as well, you know, the 72% from Belfast that got funding from the Arts Council, but there's only 13 groups successful in our own council area. And the other pot that was available for funding wasn't made available to any groups in this area. you know, so I think that seems to have been, since I've been in council and even longer than that, we've been basically trying for the sort of scraps at the end of it, our arts and, you know, groups around us here in the northwest area, and something has to change, you know. So hopefully when we get them in front of us, we'll be able to question them and basically put them at right of what we're missing out and what we need in this area. So thanks, sir.
Thanks, Alderman Guy. I'm happy to second that proposal for council officers to explore those options. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in, and I agree with your own comments and proposals and of others in the chamber as well. Look, I think that the news that the Waterside Theatre would be shut is devastating, and I actually think it's an utter disgrace. And I think for most people, you know, Waterside, Cityside, this feels like a massive slap in the face. And I just think about, it's only a year since we were fighting to keep the doors of Radio Foyle open, and now we have another major attack on the city. And we have been in discussions through the arts and culture sector here in the city, and the district has been in discussions with the Arts Council and with the DFC about regional imbalances. They have taken on board that and acknowledged that there are regional imbalances. There's a legacy of regional imbalances. And I just find this is an absolutely shocking decision, because the message that this is going to send out to people in the arts and culture sector is a very bad one about their contribution. And people always say, look, when money's tight, it's the arts that gets slammed first. And that's what this feels like. It's not a cut of £10,000. It's not a cut of £20,000. It's a cut of their entire budget. And, you know, my sympathy goes to the workers first, and anybody that would be potentially laid off as a result of this. There's a lot of people around the city and the district that contribute to the Waterside Theatre, and they're all going to be directly impacted. And then there's obviously the people who utilise the theatre itself, because they have a wide range of different events there. I mean, recently I was at a children's event for my children. It was brilliant. There was a brilliant film put on there by the Derry Trades Council about workers in Dublin. And I think that, you know, it really does add value to the fabric of the city. So I think it would be a massive loss. And I think as a council, we should do whatever we can to try and make sure that the theatre continues to exist and actually grows and improves, and that people can continue to go there. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Harkin. Aidan, is there any other people want to speak on the matter? No. Aidan, maybe you could come in and address some of those points.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, we as an officer team certainly would agree with that. We're due to meet with Ian tomorrow, first thing tomorrow morning, and we're happy to take that on as an action. Certainly think that's a very good suggestion. More than happy to proceed with that. But we're, as I say, we're having a preliminary discussion with him tomorrow anyway about that, but we'll take that on, no problem.
Thanks, Aidan. Okay, moving on to item 7, matters arising from the open minutes. Oh, sorry, Councillor McDade. Just getting ahead of myself there. So, under the Chair's business, you wanted to discuss Ballyarna block plan, so go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It was just to get an update. It was agreed at December committee that council would work with the stakeholders to complete a block plan of that Ballyarna Country Park to ensure that all competing interests would be accommodated within the site. I just wanted to get an update on it and see has the block plan been complete. Thank you.
My colleague in Environment Regeneration, Colin Kennedy, has been working that because he's responsible for the park. And as you know, there was Steelstown, the Maya, and then the arts proposal through Studio 2. So he's been working away on that. I'm pretty sure it's close. I don't think it's finished because it'll go in front of members first. But I'll chase it up and get an update for you.
Thanks, Stephen. Okay, thanks, Councillor McDade. Sorry for overlooking you there. So moving on to item 7, matters arising from the open minutes Business and Culture Committee held on Tuesday the 12th of March 2024, pages 25 to 30. Anybody want to come in? Any matters arise? Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm conscious that I'm not a member of this committee, but I have been on it in the past. So that's yeah, look, it's BC 48/24. And at the last full council meeting, I brought up the issue of Marsden Holdings and our the council's contract with them. And I know council officers are engaging in putting together a report on their practices and their ethical practices. But people will have seen over the last week and a half that their practices have been brought up at other councils as well across the north. And residents have got in contact with me. So look, I think if it can be incorporated into the report, there's a few other things to do with the app, which is that there is a fee, a convenience fee that is charged every time you use the app. And it was pointed out to me that sometimes people have to go from one car park to the next even within the city. And every time they would use the app, because it's a different car park, that means they're going to be charged a fee. It's also the case that Marsden or the app organization take out a full day's pay, a full day's cost of parking. Even if you're going to stay for an hour, you're charged for 8 or 10, and that money is taken by Marsden, I presume, and held, and you get it back 3 or 4 days later. This wasn't the practice with the last app. That's my understanding. And look, there's a few other things which is to do with Marsden. The workers there, they get paid basically the minimum wage. That's what they're on. And sometimes they bear the brunt of people's frustrations with car parking fees and fines and the fact that the fees have went up. And they don't even get time and a half on a Saturday, which I find absolutely shocking. And we're coming up to May Day, and I think it's just not good enough that people wouldn't get time and a half on a Saturday. So I just wanted to raise that, because I know it's an ongoing issue that has been brought up to other councillors and aldermen over the last month. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Ergan. And I've had the same kind of representations about the fees and as it coming out, and I've asked the same questions of council officers. So, Councillor Farrell, if you want to come in there.
Thanks, Chair. I think my comments are going to be very similar to Councillor Harkins. I think he might have been reading my notes before he came on here. So the three concerns that have been relayed to me was about pre-authorisation on the card, where they put a holding fee on it. It can take up to a week for it to be refunded onto your card. And if you use multiple car parks in the one day, you could have multiple pre-authorisation fees. And if you don't have a wild lot of money in your bank, that's a problem. There's a fee for getting a text message about your parking charge, and then there's something they call it a convenience fee. It's more of an inconvenience fee in my view. So I've been contacted by a number of people across the city and district. I know council colleagues across the north have had similar concerns from people. So the question would be, I know that we are a consortium of 8 councils who have entered into this agreement with NSL. Is there a process within that about feeding back concerns about this app? These didn't exist with Just Go or Just Park, but there are concerns out there about Ring Go. So just a question to Kevin, if he wishes to take it, is there any forum within that consortium to feed back these type of issues, or is it every council for itself? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Barron. Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And you can imagine that the issue around the app and the new contract is one that certainly anticipated coming up in today's committee, given the various bits of feedback, and I've been going back and forth to different members, and I actually have a list here of all of the queries in terms of the general public that has come in via it. So, in specifically in relation to is there a forum? Yeah, there's the off-street car parking forum, which consists of the 8-member councils, and that forum met last Thursday, specifically around the onboarding of the new contract. And the specific issues within which it dealt with were 1, the pre-authorisation, 2, the convenience fee, 3, the auto marketing texts, and actually a 4th one, which is around some scam apps that were sort of mimicking what Ringo looked like. So we've made some headway in terms of those issues. Taking the convenience fee first. So actually, Just Park did have a convenience fee. It was 8p. It wasn't called a convenience fee, and actually, unless you look very closely at your bill, you wouldn't necessarily have noticed it. So it was automatically charged, and that fee applied if you were using multiple car parks. So if you were going from one to the other, you were charged 8p each time. So that's the cost, and that's the cost for NSL. That's the cost of doing business in terms of using that app. So it's gone up. It's 2p up within the contract. There's no room for manoeuvre on that. That fee will pertain. In terms of the pre-authorization, so within the Just Park, when you did the difference between this new app and the last one was when you started your car parking, it actually asked you had you enough money within your bank account, and if you didn't have enough money within your bank account, it checked, you weren't able to actually start your parking. This one tells you you're going to do it, and the challenge is around the charge. Whilst no money actually comes out of your account, there's a charge on it. You're not able to use it yourself, and it's the time that takes. It can potentially they have a disclaimer on it that it can take up to 7 days. Now, that's not the case in all areas, and we're trying to work through that to see how they can quickly do that and whether there can be any fixes around multiple car parking usages. So that's work in progress, and that's something that we need to look at. In terms of the texts, that was something that we, along with other councils, have been very, very strongly opposed to. In Great Britain, England, Scotland and Wales, where councils used the Ringo app, that was an automatic charge that was used there, and they just onboarded that here in the 8 council areas. We've now got that removed. So when you do register your details, you'll be asked to opt into that as opposed to opting out, which we didn't think was good practice, and one that we were seriously concerned as an officer team about when we became aware of it. So that's now an opt-in. So if you want to receive the text, you need to be made aware that it's going to cost you, and you need to actually, agree to that, which that wasn't the case this time last week. So we've got that remedied. So we'll continue to work through the details. It's an eight councils are involved in it, and we have a contract obviously with NSL, and that was subject to procurement and all the rest of it. So we need to continue with that. We'll meet again this week to try to mop up any outstanding issues, and to try to continue to lobby to make this as seamless a process as possible for people to pay cashless. So that's pretty much it. But I actually have a list of every single query that a member of the public has contacted us with. We're trying our best to make sure that the members of the public are satisfied with the response. There have been teething issues around software and stuff. That is to be expected. We understand that. But those other ones, that's a full appraisal of where we're at, and we're taking it very, very seriously.
Thanks, Kevin. Alderman Guy.
Thanks, Kevin, for that there. As council, are we allowed to put it out on our social media platform that there is opt-out on your phone to let people know who maybe mightn't be just tech savvy? Because there's obviously notifications there that you can turn off so that you're not getting them extra charges, but not everybody knows about that. Are we allowed to advertise that because we're into obviously a commitment with the...
So as it stands today, any new users aren't opted in. They would need to actually opt in to receive those texts. That's been changed. But what I was going to say to you was, so we've developed a marketing comms package. We're going to have signage in each of the car parks warning users about the cost of receiving texts, to be very, very clear. And we will be putting it out in social media to make people aware of it. It's not something that we feel that you should have to opt in, and that is exactly what is happening now, by the way. But there are users who will have registered between the 3rd or 4th of April and maybe last Friday, who may not still be aware. Look, this is how I can opt out now. Do you know what I mean?
So we will do that very, very clearly.
Thanks, Kim. Okay, Alderman Guy. So that's everything on the car parking. Do you want to come in on the car? Is it a matter of raising? Yes. Right, that's okay. We'll move on to your issue that you want to raise. Go ahead, Alderman.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chair. It's just seeking clarification on item 46. The entry into licenses with organisations as required to facilitate council festivals and events. Is that specifically relative to council organised festivals and events, or does it include council supported events?
18.
That's specifically for council organised events. Yeah, it's a specific arrangement that we need to get approval to enter into for our own events.
Okay, any other matters arising? Nope. So we'll go ahead to item 8. Visit Dairy Service Level Agreement update, page 31 to 52. 18.
So thank you, Chair. Members, this, I suppose, is a routine report that accompanies a presentation with Visit Dairy, and it's to update you on the details of the service level agreement with them in advance of their annual deputation to committee, which you'll be aware happened earlier in this meeting. It really just sets out the detail of the service level agreement, which you'll be aware we have annually at a cost of 391,000 per annum, which, as you know, last year was subject to a 15% reduction. It sets out there, obviously, the details of the 2 key roles around destination marketing and visitor servicing that the organisation provide. There's a good bit of background there in terms of the independent review that was carried out in 2017 and the targets that were set around growing investment in marketing, which didn't materialise. And again, in 2018, the additional funding of 50,000 that was granted, which allowed the organisation to recruit an international brand manager. That obviously has been rescinded, and the brand manager left at the same time as the budget cut. So that has caused I suppose that's a significant issue in terms of the ability to deliver for Visit Dairy to deliver, particularly on the destination marketing piece. The outputs, the service level agreement outputs and targets are reviewed and updated each year, the details of which are set out in the appendix to this report. The aim is to attract 470,000 visitors to the destination throughout the coming year, increasing overnight visitors to 324,000 and 100 million to be contributed to the local economy in line with the tourism strategy. You'll see the other detail there of the outputs. They're summarised in the report and can set out in the appendix, but happy to take any questions around those. The annual targets are set lower than the national percentage increase of 6.5% as a reduction in SLA funding impact on the organisation. And again, I've mentioned the reduction in staff, decrease in sales and marketing activity, which will ultimately have a detrimental effect on the city and district's ability to deliver tourism growth, sustain jobs and drive the local economy. Again, the loss of the shared resource, particularly in the destination brand manager, has had a significant impact on our overall ability to effectively and collectively support the promotion of the destination, and has disrupted the strategic focus on international campaigns and activities. That post played a crucial role in coordinating major destination funding, which featured in Council's festival and events programme and key visitor attractions like the Guildhall and the Tower Museum. Their impact has repercussions beyond marketing, impacting other council departments reliant on their expertise and support for international focus activities. It is imperative to address this gap in the short term to ensure the continued success of our promotional efforts and the sustained growth of tourism in the region. Members, you should note that the effect of a reduced marketing budget will take, and you'll know that these cuts reflect the cuts to our own marketing budget, will take a number of seasons to realise in a similar way to the current visitor numbers are as a result of the cumulative success of years of intensive destination and product promotion. That's the results and the high numbers of visitors that we're seeing today is really as a result of the sustained activity over the last, I would say, 10 plus years. And you should note that part of the service level agreement, obviously Visit Dairy made a parallel presentation to this committee. The detail of financial agreement is set out. But members, the recommendation of this report is that you're asked to note the contents of the report and approve the continuation of the service level agreement between Council and Visit Derry with the updated targets and outputs as set out. And to note the impact of the reduction this has had to both Visit Derry and Council departments, and review the level of funding provided on an annual basis as part of the rates process. Happy to take any questions. And I should say we're joined today by the Tourism Manager, Jennifer O'Donnell, who has prepared the report and is key in the management of our service level agreement with Visit Derry and indeed on tourism product development. So we're both happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Erin, and thanks. Jennifer, was it? Yeah. Councillor Nelis?
Look, as I said already, I'm on the board for Visit Derry, so I completely appreciate everything they do. And you see the impact of the market and the increased numbers pre or post-COVID here in the city. So in terms of the current budget and the restrictions in the current budget, as a party, we feel that the council should request a meeting with TNI to discuss their allocation towards Visit Derry. This office is a gateway office to the wider northwest, and such a strategic location. It has such a strategic location that TNI should have a much higher investment in the area. We don't feel that the council can carry all of the weight of the financial difficulty that Visit Derry is in with this budget cut. TNI should be sponsoring a much higher percentage, and we would like to ask for a review of how TNI supports this vital work and how they can review their strategy. I know earlier that Michelle had mentioned Tourism Ireland as well. I wonder, would it be worthwhile also asking for a meeting with them, as the Visit Derry is also, the Derry itself is the gateway to Donegal. So potentially it would be worthwhile arranging a meeting with TNI and with Tourism Ireland as well.
Thanks, Councillor Nelis. Alderman Hussey.
Thanks, sir. It's just a quick query on 2.1. Visitor servicing through the already referred to Gateway Visitor Information Centres. Obviously, the earlier presentation showed us that there were salaries being paid in the region of, it was £543,000 roughly, and we were told there's approximately 20 employees, full-time, part-time, within Visit Derry. Are any of those employed in the Alley Theatre, which is listed as one of the Gateway Visitor Information Centres, or are they all down in VIC in the city?
Thanks, Alderman Hussey. Do you want to come in? Katie?
No, members will be aware that the staff who staff the VIC in the Alley Theatre are covered under council's own budgets directly as part of the Alley Theatre team.
Thanks, Chair. I find that strange. If we're looking at Visitor Derry to provide this particular service for us, why can't some of their staff actually be based in the other Gateway Information Centre?
So just to be clear, those staff, we have Visitor Information Centre staff but they're funded and they're employed directly by council, but they receive the same training and coordination of activity and indeed dissemination of information, and also they operate in the exact same way, and they draw down a lot of the expertise and communications and stuff that are part of the Visitor Information Centre network, and training and everything else that the team in Derry have, but they're employed directly by council who own and operate the Visitor Information Centre in Strabane. So we work on drawing on the expertise, but the budget comes from a separate place. Otherwise we would have transferred budget, I suppose. It just operationally it makes more sense to run it that way.
So that's additional in-kind funding to Visitor Derry, essentially.
If I just come in there, because it's not, it's no different to the Guildhall. All the Guildhall staff are trained in terms of visitor servicing. That's what they do. If tourists come in, they get the information, they get pushed. So it's not, we're not funding Visit Derry through a back door. That's just not what we're doing. We're providing services. It's very clear in the presentation. You saw there are two major destination marketing organisations in Northern Ireland. One is in Derry and one is in Belfast. And then there are a number of sub-offices which all councils fund. So you'll go to the Fermanagh and there'll be one in Enniskillen and it'll be council run. So it's no different to how we fund it, and it's not definitely not funding something by the back door.
Councillor Hussey, are you trying to maybe say that if there was an employee from Visit Dairy located in Strabane, that they would be able to seek out opportunities? Is that what you're getting at?
I'm not sure, but I just wonder, that direct link with the organisation that we are funding.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you. It was just something that Councillor Hussey said earlier on there. The presentation was on. Do you see, when we look at the figures that City Dairy need, total income, and then we look at the hotel room sales, would there be an element of that as a finance strategy? There could be something like, if there was £5 of a tax put on a hotel room, that would nearly cover the entire costs of the dairy. So I'm thinking to myself, if I was in a hotel and I was getting someone to work to fill my beds, I would be well chuffed to pay £5 a room for a booking. So if there was analysis and a financial strategy done, I think that would be better than a business saying, like you're saying, of making a donation that they think they have no return. The return would be built in by a hotel room, by a tax per booking. So I'm wondering, was that ever? It's probably maybe the wrong people that should have been to Visit Dairy, but it was only just following his thing that sort of came to me. But in this presentation or in this report, that may be something that we should go back to, when we talk about reviewing the cut to be made, that I think that we should be looking at tax per hotel room booking. Thank you.
Thanks. I know that it happens in a lot of cities throughout the world, but I don't know where the legalities are around the implementation of it. Is it the council or is it the executive? Or but if you want to come in, Steve.
I'm happy to try to. We have no tax raising powers to do it as a council, obviously. Having looked into it previously, it would a bit like we just talked about the text message. It would have to be an opt-in rather than an opt-out. So it would have to be something on your bill that said, basically, would you like to pay something, £1, £5, whatever that happens to be, towards the cultural programming of the city and district based on your experience. So it would have to be something like that. We wouldn't have the power to impose a charge.
Sorry,
hotel charge.
It would be the hotel itself paying. Like I don't know what a hotel room is now. It depends where you go. But if you're charging 120, 140, 160 quid for a room for a night, like as part of that charge, say for example, if the cost was worked out, £5 per room, based on the numbers, that's been targeted and strategized, and tell me you could work out. I don't think it would be a big problem that hotels would donate into the centre, £5 per room. If it was £5, just use that as an example, but then the hotel itself would, each booking would put into the centre. Not our council imposing a tax. I'm only saying is, if we were to review the entire budget and the cut that we made, we could be making suggestions around financial strategy to Visit Dairy.
Thanks, Councillor Gallagher. Do you want to add anything? Or?
No, apart from, we're happy to take that back to the Visit Dairy board and have that discussion within the board meeting of Visit Dairy, see if it's a viable option.
Anyone else want to come in? Councillor Farrell.
Just briefly, when we had the discussion with Visit Derry, I had asked about the contribution from Tourism Northern Ireland. Feedback from Odrin was that it was baseline and I wasn't expecting any immediate increase. So in terms of the contribution from Tourism NI, I think it should increase. I know that Grace has a proposal, but I'm not sure what the proposal is. Is it that Tourism NI present to this committee, or it's a private meeting organised? I'm not too sure. If we could get a bit of clarity on that, please.
So was it, I think Grace mentioned about council officers talking to Tourism NI. Was that what you were?
Yeah, it wasn't a proposal. It was a suggestion that the council meet with Tourism NI and discuss it. Yeah, the council officers.
But it may be worthwhile. I don't know if you have had Tourism NI in doing a presentation. Would it be, do you think it would be worthwhile to have them in the business culture meeting?
I don't think that would be a bad idea, anyway. At some stage in the future.
So are you proposing that?
I will propose that, Chair.
Yeah, I'll second it. So we can, yeah, so we can ask them to come in and. Okay, so is that everything on that item? We'll move on to item 9, Museum Service Annual Report 2023 to 24. Aidan.
So thank you, Chair. Members, this report is to update you on the work of the Museum Service for the last year, 23-24, and to present the programme for the Museum Service for 24-25, and to approve new admission and guided tour prices for the Tower Museum and the Guildhall, and to bring items and collections listed in the report into the Museum Collection Archive. During 23-24, the Museum Service delivered a varied and detailed programme of exhibitions and events. This report provides a summary of the key work set out for last year and the programme plans for the coming year. The list, so there's a number of exhibitions detailed there, which I won't go through, but you can read through, and I'm sure many of you have enjoyed the exhibitions over the past year, including You, Me and Tea in the Tower Museum, obviously the Derry Girls Experience, which is currently in the Tower Museum and indeed is still ongoing, still there, the Fair River Valley exhibition in the Alley Theatre. And then there's a number of pages there about some of the key highlights of activity over the past year delivered by our museum service, highlighting our collections. We've also delivered a number of programmes, including Art in the Community, Artists in Residence, Art and Storytelling, and Art Trail as part of Culture Night. And indeed, the museum service have participated and delivered elements of the majority of within the majority of our festival and events, core festival and events programme. We participated in a region-wide project in partnership with the Northern Ireland Museums Council and National Museums NI in the Global Voices Local Choices, which many of you may have been to see in the Tower Museum. We have an extensive learning and engagement programme that is again set out in detail in the report that I won't go through in detail in this presentation, but there's also details there on the Archive and Genealogy Service, which is heavily used, deals with an average of 80 queries a month, and also has seen significant donations into our own collections. And I'll come on to a couple of other key items in this report shortly. There's an exciting programme planned for the museum team for 24-25, not least the key priority is the engagement around the new museum, which will see a number of staff are obviously prioritising the conditioning and the preparation of the decant of the Tower Museum and moving over to the new DNA. And there's a number of engagement events planned, including a key set of activity at this year's Foyle Maritime Festival. Obviously, the team continuing to deliver the Derry Girls Experience, which we expect to remain in the Tower Museum for the majority of this coming financial year. Workers' rights and social justice will happen again with the Lego suffragette arriving in the city in late April. So that's an exciting addition. temporary addition to the Tower Museum. There's a lot of little and big people excited about that arrival. So it's a new take on our workers' rights and social justice programme. We obviously have plans for the showcasing some of, particularly the Strabane connection with the American independence story, and that we'll see a new exhibition on the Declaration of Independence come to the Tower Museum over the summer. We have been successful with the Council's Peace Plus Action Plan being funded to do the historic cemeteries projects, which the museum service will provide a large element of the programming around that. And members, you will be aware that a key remit of the museum service is the care and preservation of our collections, which it holds on display and in storage. As you know, this is carried out to high professional museum standard, and the museum team provide advice to local museums and heritage organisations in the appropriate care of local heritage collections. The museum service have recently been approached by the family of John and Pat Hume with a request to professionally manage and care for their parents' archive. The collection consists of papers and a small number of key artefacts associated with John and Pat Hume. It is proposed to bring the collection formally into the museum service archive on loan, where it can be secured, listed and managed professionally by the curator and archivist. It's the understanding of the service that the Hume family are considering the longer term future of the collection to ensure its preservation and accessibility. Museum team are happy to be part of those considerations and to ensure that in the interim the collection is secured and accessible in line with the wider museum service archive. Any decisions clearly on the future of the collection that would involve council would be brought to members at a future date. Other significant permanent donations to the collections this year include the archive paper of W.S. Ferguson and the archive of the Londonderry Seroptimists, and papers linked to the police service in the late 1930s. Collections are to be catalogued prior to access. So members, the admission prices for the Tower Museum and guided tours for the Guildhall and the Tower Museum. In response to a number of benchmarking activities, the baseline rack rates for admission to the Tower Museum, as well as guided tours, the Guildhall and Tower, will be increased from the 1st of April 2024. The nominal fee increase will still remain lower than most museums and visitor attractions in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, but will help sustain the services provided in the Guildhall and Tower Museum to ensure they're engaging for local people and visitors as places to enjoy and learn and hopefully return to regularly. The baseline rates will be available at reception or to pre-book online, which is aligned with Tourism NI's Embrace a Giant Spirit campaign, but will not affect the ongoing social and community engagement, special offers or discounts available within the service. For information, the prices have not been increased within the last 10 years. There is no additional financial cost to museum service programme. All proposals are provided within the current museum service programming budgets, and members, the purpose of this report is to update you on the work of the museum service during 23-24, to present the programme for the coming year and to approve new admission and guided tour prices for the Tower Museum and the Guildhall, and to bring the items noted into the museum collection and archive. So thank you, members, and happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Aidan. Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Aidan, for the report. I think first thing I'd like to note is the establishment of the John and Pat Hume archive, which is going to consist of papers and artefacts throughout John and Pat's careers. And I would like to note just the generosity of the Hume family, that they want to share these historical items with the city and district and with visitors as well. And I think that's going to complement the existing presentation we have in the Guildhall, where we've got the Nobel Peace Prize, we've got the Martin Luther King Peace Prize and the Mahatma Gandhi Peace Prize as well. So I think the establishment of this is going to preserve and promote John and Pat Hume's legacy. So I think that's really, really welcome news. I've got a question about the pricing structure, and I'm not being a pedant, or I'm trying not to be a pedant. So we've got a new pricing structure. Has it been implemented yet? Because it's saying it was the 1st of April and it's only coming to the committee now. So just in terms of the choreography of that, has it been implemented? Okay. Happy to propose.
Thanks, Councillor Farrell. Alderman Guy.
Mine's is just a question on pricing as well. On the guided tour of the Guildhall, it's up there, it's risen now to £3. For starters, on average, do we know how many people normally take that guided tour and how long the guided tour lasts? Because I think £3, no, giving it away, like, I know there's people that will turn their nose up at a fiver. They'll come to me in the museum and they say it's a fiver and they'll walk straight back out the door again. But £3, for that building, and like, I know they do a good tour as well on it, like, so I think maybe should we reconsider that and maybe even, 50p or £1 extra, like, but happy to second that too.
Thanks. Thanks, Alderman Guy. Councillor Fleming.
Thank you for the report. However, I do wish there was a bit more data in it. Looking through it, figures like visitor numbers, revenue, costs, I'm not seeing any of that in this report. If we are being asked to approve new ticket and tour prices, I would like to see what the projected impact of that will be in terms of revenue and potentially visitor numbers. I see that in financial implications, you've listed there's no additional financial cost. I appreciate that and I take that on board, but I would appreciate a bit more data and figures in this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fleming. You want to come in, Aileen?
I'm happy to circulate some additional data if the committee would feel that would be useful. There's no problem with that at all. We have it all there, so more than happy to. There's been a good bit of work done on setting these prices and taking Alderman Guy's comments on. I think we're trying to be incremental in this, not to run before we can walk. But certainly, we know the feedback is that certainly Derrygird's exhibition has been exceptionally successful, and we know we should be charging more, and we could be, and with all of our costs, and I suppose going back to some of the other wider issues that we've discussed, we think this is an appropriate pricing point. But yeah, more than happy to circulate some additional data.
Thanks, Aileen. Councillor Hargan.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Aileen, for the report. And yeah, on pricing, look, I'm uncomfortable with any price increases, given that a lot of people are still in a cost of living crisis, and I do appreciate that, like, when there's such an successful exhibit like the Derrygirls one, we want to maximise that. But I'm always concerned about who's going to get priced out from any price rise. So I would appreciate that the additional data, looking at revenue and anything else that would be useful in terms of the concerns that are being raised. I do want to say, look, I'm delighted to hear that Hope, the Lego suffragette, is going to be coming to the museum for the Workers' Rights and Social Justice Week. And I want to say a few things about the Workers' Rights and Social Justice Week, if that's all right with the Chair. Look, there is
as long as it's brief.
Yeah. There's a fantastic week of events that are planned, and I think it's begun to be published. There's an event on the real living wage. There's an event about women's rights. There's the No Lean No Cane annual walking tour. There is events on Palestine. It's really what the Derry Trades Union Council has put together this year is once again brilliant. And I encourage the council officers to really promote the Workers' Rights and Social Justice Week as much as possible. The theme this year is workers' unity for Palestine. And I think that that's very, very important, because I think it is the role of the trade union movements here in Ireland and also globally the lead on that issue. And it's been great to see workers refusing to handle Israeli goods, as well as shutting down transport of arms to Israel. And I think we're going to see a massive day of action for Palestine on May 4th and May 1st right across the world. And there's other significant things that have happened from a trade union point of view over the last year. One is Seagate workers voting in a trade union, which has to be celebrated, given that it's been a 30-year campaign up against a lot. And look, more people are joining trade unions, and that's because Westminster's failed them, Stormont has failed them, And the one organisation that has delivered better than most others has been trade unions, where they've defended pay, they're fighting for public services. And for all these reasons, I think, the Workers' Rights and Social Justice Week, I think, should be very, very prominent for the council. And I would urge people to participate in it as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Horgan. Alderman Hussey.
It's just a brief one. Go back to the pricing structure. The VIP Merrill package, is that an individual cost or is that a group cost?
That's individual cost. That's generally, what do you call those things that come in? Cruise ships, cruise tours that avail of that package.
So each individual, say 20 come in, that's 300 quid. Yeah, that's grand. That's tough. Charge them more if you want. If they can afford to come on a cruise ship, afford to pay for it.
Thanks, Alderman Hussey. So, Rory, you proposed that. We need a seconder. Alderman Guy, was it? Okay, moving on to item 10, Peace Plus tenders and update, page 69 to 74. Is that Kevin, is it?
Thanks, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to update you in relation to the confirmation of full funding for the Peace Plus local action plan, and they ask members to officially confirm acceptance of the sign-off process for this funding. Council's obviously delighted to have got the news. We're the first council to have had our action plan approved, and it'll be a great boost for the region as it starts to deliver out. The second part is around the tender process for 5 tenders listed within the report, and to recommend that members ratify the procurement decisions on these processes. So as you see in the report, the full amount of 9.2 odd million euro has been approved by the SUPB. We actually got the first part of the letters of acceptances through today to the Chief Executive's office, which with the full letter of offer to follow. As you will be aware from previous reports, the Peace Plus board has been meeting regularly, and the entire board working tirelessly to develop the plan and to ensure that the various processes and stages have been completed. And that includes 58 tendered projects. So it's no mean feat in terms of preparing that type of, that sheer amount of projects and paperwork and associated terms and conditions that need to be adhered to itself. Within the report itself, the 5 projects are highlighted in under 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 4 and 5. I'll not go into the details in terms of each of those projects. Needless to say that they all went through Council's public procurement process and were the result of that. There's a further 2 have been advertised for April 2024. At the time, we were going out at risk in relation to this procurement, but we're happy now that we're in the final stages now of signing off on the paperwork. And once we do actually accept the letter of offer, the projects will be able to get off the ground, and the much needed funding will start to filter out to the groups, and the actual work that will be delivered as part of that will start to be implemented, and a great boost for the participants themselves. So the recommendation is to ratify the tender process in 5.1 and to give permission to sign the letter of acceptance by the Chief Executive in 5.2.
Thanks, Kevin. Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Kevin, for the report. We welcome the letter of offer and it being signed and ratified. I think it has come at a great time. It took it a wee while to come through, Kevin, but thank God that no, it's not at risk anymore, and it's given a wee bit of security to those organisations that are going to be rolling these programmes out. I suppose these programmes are going to transform communities. They're going to keep them peaceful. They're going to keep them thriving. So it can only be welcomed that that this money is now going to be filtering through so that they can hit the ground running with the programmes that they very hardly worked. They worked very hard on. They design and implement to ensure that they were hitting all the outcomes. So great news. Well done to Council. Well done to the organisations, and I wish them the very best of luck.
Thanks, Councillor Hutton. Anybody else want to come in? Councillor Hargan?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, look, I think that the, funding for organisations in the district is welcome, and it's good to see. I do want to raise some concerns about 3.1, A Stitch in Time, which is the iconic Rosemount factory. And I do agree that there should be a master plan for the Rosemount factory going forward. And I and others, particularly in Rosemount and in the Foyle side, have been concerned of late about that being turned into 4 floors of student housing or 2 floors of student housing. And I think that a lot of the proposals that were part of the tender are good in terms of it's a research project, it has to involve community, and so on. And it would be very, very interesting for all that to be carried out. However, I think it can't lead to a situation where there has to be actual community participation in it, and none of the organisations that signed on to the letter of support are actually in the building as it stands right now, which is I think is problematic. Nor are there any Rosemount organisations listed on the letters of support. So I think that this is Rosemount factory is somewhere where my mother worked, and I think that it is an iconic building for Rosemount because it is at the heart of that community. But it's also a citywide building in the sense that it was very prominent in the City of Culture, stands towering over the city, and also is very, very important for the council, for the district. So I think that the future of it has to be a proper consultation about the way forward, an actual master plan that involves, organisations like Friends of the Factories who initiated the plaque campaign, where we've seen these brilliant plaques going up a couple of years ago to honour the shared factory workers, and also organisations like the Dairy Trade Union Council who were very much involved in that. And so, look, I think that if you go to Rosemount now, nobody actually knows about this proposal, and I think people want to be involved in how to shape the future of the factory and what it can be, and how to continue the regeneration and development of Rosemount. But if you talk to residents right now, not just in Rosemount, but in the broader area, because I've been at a number of meetings about HMOs and the future of buildings, there's a lot of concern. And I think that this has to be done right. And I think it has to involve a much wider number of organisations in the discussions about the future of the building.
Thanks, Councillor Hargan. Kevin, do you want to come back in on anything there?
Just specifically on that, obviously there's a number of issues which are wider than necessarily the Peace Plus project itself. But what I would say is that to date, obviously the Peace Plus action plan is a result of about 2.5, 3 years of extensive consultation and co-design, really at real grassroots and community level for the entire action plan. But what I would say is that so the project itself has to engage with a minimum of 100 participants. That will also include then a range of resident workshops, resident meetings, that type of thing. So they really need to run 8 within the period of the project itself and within the proposal. And I think that the Peace Plus board were at pains to try to ensure that what you have is real community, it's bottom up by its very, very nature. And within building in what the actual the contracts when they're issued will be that participation. So a minimum of 100, but also then in terms of the entire project, 250 participants. So we take all those points on board, and within the contractual side of it, those types of issues will be built into that itself, so that you have got people in Rosemount, because that is the people that they're trying to target. Also, it's across community projects, so we have to look at the entire history of that area within this proposal. So I think that when you see the project starting to develop, we will be able to reassure you around some of the issues that you've raised itself, and the Peace Plus board are there to hold that to account.
Thanks, Kevin. Go ahead, Councillor Hargan.
Yeah, well, look, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that, and I think that I wouldn't necessarily agree that it has been bottom up. I mean, my mum and dad live next door to the factory, and I've lived there since 1974, and before that on Lewis Street, and they don't know anything about this. So I know that there's a plan to engage people, but it can't be a sense where people are being targeted for engagement. They should have already been engaged around this, and that's what I'm raising. And the second thing is, this is very important, there can be no predetermined outcomes, which is that, because I'm concerned about some of the things I've been told are planned for the factory, be that by private organisations or community. And I think that it can't be that people are going to be walked in and plans for the factory are already predetermined. So this is a much wider discussion that exists in Rosemount on the ground. And I think that people haven't necessarily felt that there's vehicles to raise concerns or to give input. I think that there is agreement that there should be a master plan for the factory, that it is put to community use, that it is utilised in a way that really brings out the history of the building, the contribution of the shared factory workers, the history of Rosemount. And not just Rosemount, the broader city, and then also used as much as possible to kind of enhance the area and benefit the area. But there is a lot of concerns right now about the future of the many areas in the Foyleside DEA. So thank you for the response.
Thanks, Councillor Hargan. You proposed that, Aisling. Could we have a seconder? Councillor Farr.
Very briefly,
Yes,
Chair. First of all, I'd just like to welcome, the over £8 million that has been secured through Peace Plus that's going to deliver a range of projects across the city and district. And then specifically around this paper, I want to congratulate Land Development Initiative, St Columns Park Reconciliation Trust, Northwest Migrants Forum, Learmonth Community Development Group, and Greater Shantala Area Partnership. Just for the successful applications. I know the effort that goes into making an application, refining it, and the amount of work and consultation that's involved in that. So I want to congratulate those individual groups for having successful applications that are going to provide tangible benefits for communities right across the city and district. So well done to each and every group involved.
Thanks, Councillor Farrell. Okay, we'll move on to item 11, Annual Service Plan 2024-2025, Business Culture Directorate. Over to you, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and members will be delighted to know I'm not going to read through 180 pages of the service plan in the report. There's an awful lot of detail there, as members will be aware. Previous years, we bring the service plan, which is kind of following on from the rates process, which outlines exactly what the department is going to do and the resources that are allocated to it, and an update on what we have achieved in 23-24. There are a number of highlights within the paper, and the full report is there. It's probably more important from us as officers that we hear the comments back from yourselves. I appreciate as well that there's a lot of detail there. So if members have other comments between now and council meetings, I'm happy to take those on board as well. So really it's over to yourselves. Happy to take any comments, queries, and between the three of us, we should be able to answer them. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Councillor McHugh.
Ciara, thank you, Chair. Just to thank Stephen, I suppose, for the report, and on behalf of my own party, obviously welcome the report. And I don't pretend to have read through every page of it either, but I did read through the services provided and the achievements and progress to date, as well as the targets. Just reading through the achievements and progress to date, it kind of does show you the vastness and the reach of the department. I do think too it's an opportune moment maybe just to acknowledge the work of the department. Indeed, with three officers here, we've got obviously the director, we have the head of culture and the head of business here, many ways you're a bit like the Holy Spirit. You're 3 in 1 here. But just to say, commend them for the work they do and delivering the service of that department every year. And I know that from a Sinn Féin perspective, that is very much appreciated. And like all other departments, it's done within an ever challenging financial situation as well. So I think reading through the report, it's a case of a lot done and more to do, and we wish our officers well in their endeavours, and I'd be happy to endorse the report and propose that we adopt it. Or am I going to carry that?
Thanks, Councillor McHugh, and I concur with that as well. Thanks to Stephen and Aidan and Kevin here today for all the work that they're doing and will do. Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Stephen, for the report. And similarly to Councillor McHugh, on behalf of the SDLP, we want to recognise the massive achievements that have been delivered over the past year, and we note the ambitious plans for the year ahead. And we would just want to pass on our thanks to the entire team within the Business and Cultural Directorate. But I've got one question. It's not noted on here, and it's a particular bugbear of mine. It's the Mute Meadow. We've got this public artwork that cost like £800,000. There's been issues since it was initially unveiled in 2011. It's not working at the minute. So is there any update on that particular public artwork? Because when we walk around the city at night, it's beautiful. We've got first-class public realm. We've got the Peace Bridge. The river looks majestic. We've got Everton coming to life. And we've got Mute Meadow, which is in darkness. So I think there's opportunity there to enhance the sort of nighttime experience across the city. So is there any plans to address that? Thank you.
Happy to take that, Chair. Yeah, we're very aware of the issues with Mute Meadows and the work. We've done a lot of work to scope out what needed to be done, so we know exactly what needs to be done. We have the work costed, so we have that, and we also have a budget, which is sometimes the hardest bit. The bit that has, I suppose, held back is people resource, and members will be very aware of the kind of, on one hand, the number of ambitious capital projects that we're involved in. On the other hand, there's a small team of capital project managers, and I need a capital project manager to manage the actual project. And every time we get one, something else bubbles up as a priority, and that's kind of us managing the priorities. There's no criticism of anybody, it's just the way it is. But it's on my list to talk to John when he gets back from a few days off, and to see if we can free up, identify a resource to get it out. All I needed to get out to tender, and an identifiable, we can do that. I just need the identifiable project manager who's going to manage it for me to get it repaired. So we're on it, and I hope to have better news. Right, I'll come back next committee, and hopefully we can say when we're going to get it done.
Thanks, Stephen. Are you seconding that proposal?
Yeah, I'm happy to second that.
Okay.
That's a very positive update, Stephen. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? No. So we'll move on now for open for information, 12, 13, and 14. I'll just go through them individually. So item 12, update on the Foyle Maritime Festival 2024, pages 2570, 262. Councillor Cusack.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Basically, first of all, to welcome the outlay of what's going to be happening during the Foyle Maritime Festival. It's really exciting. And all the town's always buzzing during it. We don't have Clipper, but we have everything else, and I'm sure that we won't suffer because of that. Forgive me, I hope I don't cough and splutter my way through this. But just as a point of note, now we're offering motorhome accommodation in Fort George, and I've been contacted about the pricing of that. Now, I know a lot of people are interested in coming to Derry, and they're motorhome enthusiasts, and they are very familiar with the community and the pricing structures throughout the island and beyond. And according to them, that it's quite extortionate. Now, I checked it out, and back in 2022, so only 2 years ago, we were charging £10 for the site, which is at no facilities, as in electricity or toilets or showers, etc., etc. Okay, it has fresh water and toilet water, all that sort of thing. But facilities are being offered down on Foyle Valley Railway, which is over 2 miles away. It's just not feasible or practical. So I have 2 questions. One would be, why the hike in the price, which is like threefold in 2 years, and what are they getting for their money? What's why the massive increase, and how is that justifiable? Thanks. I'm just really concerned that it's going to be detrimental to people coming here, and and be prohibitive as opposed to attracting more tourists.
Thanks, Councillor Cusack. Erin?
Well, they're getting direct access to the best maritime festival in the country, but I suppose we could fill, when we offer motorhome facilities attached to events, we could probably fill them threefold. So, and the feedback that we've been getting is that previously that the price was extremely reasonable, and so I suppose and we're under pressure, I suppose, to generate income on all of that. So that's why the next day is done to look at the pricing. There is really high demand for motorhome parking, particularly with events, and it is an opportunity for us to generate revenue. We have done a bit of benchmarking compared to other, parking at other similar festivals. It's not a regular weekend, I suppose. It is for access to the festival. But it is certainly something we can look at. But that's how we've set the pricing.
Through the chair, could I just have a follow-up question? So the authority responsible is essentially ourselves, is that correct? And would you know at this stage how many bookings we have already?
I don't at this stage, but I can get that information. Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Erin. Alderman Hussey.
Thanks, sir. It's just a query on the procurement. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 items there where we're not told the income that's expected from those providers. And I presume, obviously, the procurement process has been finalised, has been finished. But is it normal at the end of a procurement process not to be told the income that's to be expected?
We can certainly provide that to members, but it will be in a confidential paper.
Is there a rationale in that? Obviously, next year or a future festival, if somebody looks at the figures and says, I can do that and I can give you an extra 10 grand, well, why wouldn't you do that?
The information is commercially sensitive, so the companies that have come to us to bid with a proposal don't want that shared publicly.
Okay, thanks. Another speak, Councillor Nealis.
Sorry, I'll just come on quickly on this, just in terms of the sponsorship. In terms of, so you're saying here you're actively searching for other sponsorship agreements. We had a quick discussion over this, and we were talking about, the idea of banners along the quay. Is there something that prohibits that from happening? Like, so say if you're walking along the quay and the railings, different sponsors the whole way along, because that's where the walkway will be. Is there something that prohibits that from happening? Is there sightline or anything, or?
There are different parts of the quay that are owned by different bodies. So generally, there isn't permission. You need advertising consent for those. We have festival branding, so we have a number of proposals that we are actively sharing with potential sponsors that would have their headline. So we have a number of branding opportunities, usually on our own festival dressing on that we would put up. So you'd see during events we would have hoardings, and we do sometimes use some of the quay that council own ourselves, but yeah, there are some restrictions on blanket branding of the quay, but we would dress quite a bit of the site as well, and they are part of the proposals that were given to companies. So we're giving them the option of being a named sponsor or of particular areas, and the dressing would be associated with that.
Thanks. Okay, if there's nothing else on that, we'll move on to item 13, update on the Strabane-Lifford and Waterside Half Marathon events. 18. Just information. Does anybody want to come in? Councillor Hutton.
Just to welcome and say thanks for the report, to see that things are progressing with the events. It's great to see them happening. I was just looking at the issue in and around the sponsorship, Aidan, and I know just through events that we would be running ourselves in the community sector, the companies that would usually sponsor us, they are feeling the cost of living crisis as well. So there is a reduction in the amount of sponsorship from those big corporate organisations. Just to say that sometimes inviting a sponsor along on the day, they have like a pop-up shop there, it does benefit them in the long run in relation to profit making. So I just wanted to put that out there to see if there was any ones that you have contacted that would give them opportunity aiding on the day to trade, because I think that sort of is a bit of a carrot and a stick when it comes to sponsorship.
Thanks, Councillor Hutton. Aidan, do you want to come in there? Okay.
So thanks for mentioning sponsorship. I do have an update following the publication of the report. So we're happy to confirm that the Lycra company have confirmed that they will sponsor the marathons for, I think it's £5,000. So that will include branded logo on the race t-shirts, water station and event branding at start to finish. And I do have an update on the entries as well. So we're currently sitting at 751 entries for the Strabane-Lifford and 717 entries for the Waterside Half Marathon. So that's very healthy numbers, but I would say it's, we still have plenty of capacity on both of those races. So please get the message out. If you have not registered, unless you're very fit, it might be a little late to start training now, but certainly not too late to start training for a relay. For the Strabane-Lifford, but it's definitely not too late to train from beginners, I would say, for the Waterside Half Marathon. So please spread the word about registrations, but it's good news. And there's still a number of live sponsorship leads as well. So, but we have confirmed in the last couple of days, the Lycra company. So that's a little bit of good news.
Thank you, Aidan. Yeah, good news indeed. Anything that can alleviate the pressure on council funds and the ratepayers is to be welcomed. Alderman Hussey?
Yeah, it's just clarification on that point. That, and I'm glad to hear the figure actually announced as much Lycra are giving. That £5,000, does that mean that the council rates contribution will go down to 21,000?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Anyone else want to come in? No. So item 14, request to use tennis courts at St. Collins Park for a large-scale music event. Anybody wants to come in? Councillor Hutton.
Sorry, you're probably trying to run through these. It's just in relation to this one. Obviously, we're welcoming any large events that are taking place in St. Collins Park, and that's what we want to see. We want to see it vibrant. We want to see it populated by people of the city enjoying music and the arts. But what I wanted to point out in relation to this one here is the fact that there are tenants on that site, namely St. Collins Park House. And we have been informed that they weren't consulted in relation to this event, and they are now in a situation where they will have to cancel a residential for young people, which has taken place that same weekend. Now, given that the event is 5 weeks in, they don't have the 6-week window to cancel the event with the organisation who is bringing the young people. And understandably, because it is young people, there's safeguarding issues, there's child protection, there's a piece of work on there and around the it would be the noise reduction equipment. St. Collins Park House has single paned glass, so I just wanted to ask the question and around, I know there has been a SAG meeting and they wouldn't have been privy to that SAG meeting, but was St. Collins Park House and the fact that they are there providing services for young people, vulnerable people, they provide services throughout the week, throughout the weekend, from morning to night. Have they been part of the process with SAG? And if not, why? And are they going to be part of the process going forward if we're going to be holding events within the tennis courts? So I think the young people use the space for residentials, be used for accommodation during the Foyle Cup, and that's used because it's an open space for young people to explore between events when they're there in the evenings. So health and safety, safeguarding, child protection is a big factor here. So I just wanted to ask the question and in around, was there consultation in that and what are we going to do about this going forward?
Yeah, happy to take it on as an unusual request. I mean, this is new. We've never been requested for this space before. So just for elected members, for your information, there is quite an extensive team of cross-council officers involved to make sure we run this we can manage this as successfully as possible. We are aware of, on one hand, the request for space from promoters for our citizens, for especially our young people and so on, and we're equally aware of the park users and so on. The issues directly with St. Collins Park House were raised at SAG, although they weren't there, so they've been looked at. I personally met with Sharon from St. Collins Park House to sit down and go through her concerns. It's safe to say she's not entirely convinced, but she's at least happier that she's been heard and assured as to what we're trying to do to make it work for the promoter and the people who are coming, but also the park users. In terms of going forward from there, and you mentioned the Foyle Cup and other thing, I certainly have no plans to make this an event space and we move on from there. This is a one-off that we see how it goes. We have concerns as officers, which we're trying to manage, and we're working way through the promoters. And as I say, there's quite an extensive team, everything from cleansing to the wider park to egress and access to all of those sorts of things that you would imagine. The park, the tennis courts themselves have to be adapted, which to make emergency exits, which the promoter is doing, and then he has to put that back because it then has to go back to being a tennis court. So when this is done and dusted, we will sit down as an officer team and then bring report back to elected members to see how we progress with this, whether it was successful or not. If not, what do we wish to do? If it was successful, what do we wish to do? How do we ensure a process that is open, transparent, but doesn't exclude one or the other, if you know what I mean? It can't disadvantage park users and clearly the tenant, but equally, if it was a successful space and it worked for the concert, then how do we maximize in that too? But that is an open discussion that will happen post this. At this stage, we're concentrating very much as officers to work with the promoter and to see how we get through this, and then we sit down and evaluate it, and that will be brought to elected members for decision from there. So hopefully any concerns that we can address, and they have been raised at SAG, and I'd say there are a number of ongoing discussions now with the PSNI and others on the wider park. We also, as I say, have concerns from officers which we are addressing with the promoter, and then we will bring that all back to elected members post the event.
Thanks, Stephen. Go ahead, Councillor Rodden.
Just through you, Chair. So going forward, it sounds as if it's user planning for this to happen. Will you be consulting with Sharon again? It's just that noise reduction equipment. What type of equipment is it that's being proposed to be used, Stephen? And because they will be in a position now of letting these people know that this is going ahead and that residential could cancel. So will there be a consultation process here now with St. Collins Park House in relation to the decision they're going to make by letting the people that have booked the residential know?
In terms of, I mean, it's open lines of communication to Sharon. I mean, I've left it very clear that I'm happy to meet back with her to address any concerns at any stage. So I'm happy to go back to her again and to talk about that. The noise reduction equipment, I need to check with our team to see what that exactly that means and how we propose to do that. But you know, it's to be conscious of all the issues, and I'm happy to work with her. So I'm happy to go back to Sharon.
Thanks, Stephen. Alderman Guy.
Just what sort of numbers are we chatting for inside the porch?
It's been assessed as from our estimate from our event side that it would be safe for up to 3,000. I don't think it'll be anywhere close to that. I think you're talking sort of 1,200, 1,500 is probably the thing. There are 3 different events, 2 music events. One kind of is 70s, 80s, 90s kind of music. But that's the safe estimate, and that's based on the size of build of the stage, etc.
Thanks. Anyone else not? No. Okay. So we're going to move into confidential for decision now. Opposed by